So this very first clip of Pascal Siakam is going to be a little awkward because Westbrook actually scores on him, but the defense is pretty good, so I'm going to use it anyway. And his defense keeps on improving, as well as his all-around game combined with his athleticism, to where it seems like Pascal is becoming the ideal power forward for the NBA today. Seems like a guy who can do a bit of everything defensively, where if he ends up on a perimeter player, then he can stay in front of him, move laterally and all that. But he's also got the verticality, and I would say the strength isn't totally there yet, but it's close enough to where he can defend big guys on the low post, protect the basket, also come from the weak side and block a shot or contest a shot at least. And then offensively, he's pretty interesting because he's maybe the best transition player in the NBA. A lot of NBA bigs are not ready to sprint down floor, and when I mean sprint, I legitimately mean sprint. Because every time the ball comes off the basket and Siakam doesn't get the rebound or whatever, he's gone. And the amount of easy baskets that he generated for the Raptors last season was pretty nuts. The only thing we're waiting on with him is just to refine that offensive game a bit more, whether that's his ball handling or just his outside shot. If he can get one of those two things down and he can surround that with the rest of his evolving game, then I would see him as a starting power forward. Maybe not this season, but down the road definitely. He's good. He's exciting, and he's an intriguing role player for the Raptors. We're not going to take too long on Andre Roberson because I talk about him every couple of weeks now at this point. There are two reasons to care about Roberson on this OKC team. One is on the court, one is off the court. We're going to start with the off-the-court one first. Every time he gets mentioned on Twitter, someone has to mention Rachel Demita, and then that leads to the inevitable joke of, yeah, well, he can't shoot, but he hit the most important shot of all, or the other joke, which is like, if he ever wanted to break up, then she could be like, all right, we'll shoot for it, and then he'd be screwed. On the floor, he just makes the whole team fit. He makes it all come together, you know? They were good when he was playing, he got injured, and then they weren't as good. Carmelo Anthony's gone, and Roberson's coming back in, and the defensive difference between that is massive. Add to that his cutting, offensive rebounding, and he's good. Brook Lopez could go down as the best signing this season in terms of just like underrated contracts. I mean, of course, LeBron was the best player that moved, but given that Lopez signed to the Bucks for like what I believe is a minimum or not too far from it, it's pretty nuts because I think while he's not going to be the second option or maybe even third option on this team, I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up being the most efficient player offensively for the Bucks and also made them way better when he's in the game because he's just such a refined and smart offensive player. His passing out of the low post is very good. He can get cutters, he can find open shooters if you double team him. He knows how to roll to the basket, and sure, he's not the best athlete in the world, but he's just good at finding the angle to get his shot off over defenders. He's still one of the better low-post scorers in the NBA, where if the offense has died out or if he's got a switch on him, you can throw it to him on the low block, and decent chance he's either going to get fouled or he's going to score. His jump shot has improved the past couple of seasons. We saw that him out there with like Lonzo and the other Lakers ball handlers helped them out a lot. So the Bucks floor should be pretty decently spaced, even if it's just for mid-range jumpers and the occasional three-pointer, because his actual three-point percentage wasn't amazing, but having a center who can just force the opposing team to care about him, that just does so much for your offense. And yeah, I think the Bucks kind of hit a home run with this one. You have Mike Budenholzer, you have Lopez, who's going to stretch out the floor, and I think we could see Milwaukee's offense make some pretty decent strides. And it wasn't bad last season, even if the roster itself really wasn't that great, if you ask me. Speaking of shooting, we're going to go on to Seth Curry, who's on the Portland Trail Blazers now. Apparently he's healthy, good to go after missing, I believe, an entire season with an injury that I probably should have researched, but oh well, we're here now. Shout out to him for being one of the last few guys in the headbands crew. So, Portland has had trouble the past few seasons because they just haven't had enough talent outside of their top 2 guys. They got a lot better on defense this year. I think part of that is because defensively up front, they're just pretty good with Mo Harkless, and Zach Collins is okay, and Nurkic is a body, and you got Aminu and all that. And to credit Dame and CJ, they both got a little bit better as well, but offensively it's never, well, not never, but it wasn't totally there for them, especially in the playoffs. And I think it's just because between Evan Turner, Aminu, Harkless, there's just a lot of guys you can kind of ignore, right? And I'm not saying Seth Curry is some big-time scorer, but he was legit when he had his last season with the Mavericks where, 12 points a game doesn't jump out at you, but he was super efficient. He shot over 40% from 3, taking quite a few a game. He can lead the offense at times. You wouldn't want him to do that over Dame that much, but I do think you could have a bit of a dynamic offense where if it's possible to have all 3 of those guys in the game, which I admit is kind of difficult, then you could have just 3 genuine ball handlers / shooters. Hell, even just having him out there with one of CJ and Dame, I think can keep the offense going in a way that wasn't possible beforehand. Having 3 talented guards who can play with and without the ball is pretty damn good. So hopefully he can give Portland some more punch. And then finally, the Denver Nuggets, Trey Lyles, who I think has gotten lost in the excitement of this team a bit. A team that's going to put up a lot of points this season. Of course, the Michael Porter Jr. draft pick and then the Isaiah Thomas signing. I think that got the headlines, and I think people are also excited about Paul Millsap hopefully being healthy for a whole season, combined with Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, and Jokic getting a year better. But with Trey Lyles, you have a real stretch 4 who seems like a dude who can chill in the corner. He can roll to the basket because he's actually pretty okay at finishing around the rim. But then he can also pop, he can flow within the offense, and he can just kind of be out there, and maybe his box score numbers won't always be the best, but when you watch the games and you see the spacing he provides and all that, and he should be pretty good for Denver, and he gives them like a real 5-out lineup that they can go to with Gary Harris and Murray and Jokic, and then you go with Will Barton and then Trey Lyles. That's 5 legit shooters, and that's going to be really difficult to defend. Now, like I always say with the Denver Nuggets, I don't know how they're going to be on defense, but hell, even there, I think Lyles has some potential because he moves along the floor pretty well and he's got some okay size to him. So he's a good player. He should make them just a little better.